I do think, though, that he has been very honest about the fact that they have lost games they shouldn't have lost. He'll tell you privately, he'll tell you publicly. They've lost games they shouldn't have lost. 3 in a row to Georgia Tech. Never should have lost any of them. The last year to Virginia, there are quite a few.
What's going on, Tar Heel Nation? My name is Nathan. That is Alan, and we are your Heel Brothers. Today, we are honored to have on here with us Andrew Jones from Tar Heel Illustrated. Man, thank you so much for being here with us today. Thank you for taking the time out of your very, very busy schedule covering the North Carolina Tar Heels to come out here and hang out with us and talk a little bit about Carolina football and the state of the program. How you doing tonight, man?
I'm doing great. Appreciate you guys having me on. I enjoy what you guys do. I think you serve a wonderful purpose, and it's cool being a part of this for tonight.
Man, that's
awesome.
That right there, man, that hits in the feels, brother. We absolutely appreciate that, man. You do a great job, but also you're on the inside each and every day with coaches right now, Mac Brown, and you guys are able to get the latest scoop on everything that's happening on the inside. And we're a fan site. We enjoy having fun with the fans and just kind of building a community where people can go just have some fun, man. And there's some questions that we have as fans that we want to ask you. I know that you do have your content, and if you are not a subscriber of Tar Heel Illustrated, be sure to head over to their channel. The links will be down in the description. Give them a follow, but also hop on and subscribe to their content. $8.33 a month. It was that's a whole lot cheaper than what I had for lunch today. That is awesome.
You must listen to our drops.
I listen to everything, bro.
Because when Jacob and I do our 11.5-minute reads, they're not really reads. We always talk about that, but we do take a lot of pride in the fact we haven't raised the price, and now it's become almost part of a shtick. So we have to keep it going.
Absolutely, dude. And I told myself, like, I am going to bring this up when we hop on. There's no way I'm letting this skate by. So $8.33 a month. Head over there. THI. Andrew Jones has been there for how many years now?
Keenan, right?
I'm sorry now.
How many years have you been covering the Tar Heels at THI?
Well, this is my 11th year as publisher here, but it's my 29th year. I've covered UNC for 29 years in some capacity, newspapers, national. I was with Fox Sports for a while. I was with a national startup that was local. That was a lot of fun too. I covered the 2009 championship for that site.
Hot dog.
But I'm in year 11 at THI.
11 years, awesome. Hasn't changed one bit. $8.33, all kinds of premium content, so much crazy stuff. We got recruiting going on right now. Be sure and go check them out over there. And dude, I am excited. Let's talk about the Carolina football program a little bit. Now, this was last week. You asked a great question to Mac Brown when in regards to Connor Harrell coming in as a start quarterback after Max got hurt. You asked him, considering our non-conference schedule, which I'll say as a fan, it's not a very intense one to say the least. You got Central this weekend. Is it good for Connor to be able to play, a group of 5 that isn't ranked very high as an FCS school, and then a pretty solid group of 5, we think, in JMU, in order to get ready for ACC play when you go on the road at Duke in just a couple of weeks now. And I'm not gonna lie, I thought Mac hit you with a stray. I thought he hit you hard. I felt like that kind of hit him in the soul a little bit. And he gave you a great quote about North Carolina is going to play to the standard. Now, we're Carolina fans. So, and on the outside, I don't know how you guys feel, but on the outside, I'm pretty sure Alan will agree with me. We've heard 8-9 wins pretty good around here. We've also heard 9 wins isn't enough. Blurred lines here that we're seeing. So tell me what you are seeing from the inside about this so-called standard, and what do you think he's really meaning with that?
He knows. He's pretty transparent. Sometimes people accuse him of being overly political, and I do agree there is a political nature in how he goes about things, but I don't have a problem with that. I do think, though, that he has been very honest about the fact that they have lost games they shouldn't have lost. He'll tell you privately, he'll tell you publicly. They've lost games they shouldn't have lost. 3 in a row to Georgia Tech. Never should have lost any of them. The last year to Virginia, there are quite a few that they have lost they shouldn't have lost. And they weren't beaten in those games. They allowed themselves to get beaten, and that's where the standard comes from. So the question I asked him wasn't so much dogging the opponents. It was more, hey, you got a few games before Connor has to play an ACC game. And it's going to take a while. Connor's not a plug-and-play guy like Sam and Drake were. Connor's going to be a slow process. So you have a few games before you got to go to Duke, which by what I've seen has pretty good defense. So I think that the standard thing is something that we actually heard about in August, and we're hearing about it now. And right now, it has to carry them to these 3 games, because human nature is, you got North Carolina Central coming in. Elon beat the crap out of them in their place the other day. Generally, when Central plays a power conference team, they get rolled all the time. So they got to find a way to keep these kids motivated. I do think playing more kids helps. That helps the standard because they're competing with each other and they want to get more snaps because they're using more guys. They played 25 guys on defense the other day. They played 34 on defense and 25 on offense, something like that. They played 69 guys on both sides of the ball, 75 overall. So, and they were doing that before the game got out of hand. So I think the standard is very simple. We got to be who we are, especially in these games where we're the more talented team and we have more experience, we have more depth, and we have this coaching staff. There's no excuse to have a drop-off and lose to Georgia Tech 3 times in a row, especially that debacle down there a couple of years ago and the one in Chapel Hill. And there's no excuse to be 6-0 and have Virginia roll in and just beat you at the line of scrimmage the way they did that night in front of a pretty weak, unenthusiastic crowd. So I think he also knows that the propensity to do that is what has affected some of the mojo among the fan base, which 8-9 wins is really good for North Carolina if you look back to the season since Mac left the first time. But it's not what this club should be doing. I think inside the Kingdom Football Center, they know that, and they understand that the fans know that. So they're trying to alleviate that. They're trying to make sure that doesn't happen anymore by playing to the standards. So if they're ready to play Saturday, not going to be a problem with Central. If they're ready to play against Madison, not going to be any problem. And quite frankly, if you look at the ACC schedule, there's a lot of games on that schedule. They shouldn't have a problem winning if they play to their standard because they have enough talent, they have enough depth, and they have enough coaching. So that, to me, is going to be the ultimate storyline of this season. How much do they meet their own standard? That will be ultimately the story that I tell, that I write about in December.
Okay, so hitting on Connor Harrell. Y'all alluded to it, I think, maybe yesterday's drop. He didn't win the starting job. He became the starter by default. What happened in fall camp that separated from what I've gathered that Max was just that much further ahead? Was it just the experience and the big ruckus crowd that they was going to go into in Minnesota, or was he just that much further ahead than what Connor brought to the table?
Those were two factors. Max could hit the short stuff with more consistency. He went to the check down more. The irony is he didn't check down a lot at Minnesota, especially early. But there were a lot of times, though, he'd take the 3-step drop and there was someone coming at him. So that was part of it as well. And he did start to find a little bit of a rhythm in the third quarter before he got hurt. But I think the experience, I think that he's 6'5" and can see everything. Connor, they list him at 6'2", but he's more like 6'1". They have to roll him in the pocket a little bit more. You're going to see more option stuff. We're going to start to see how they truly think about Connor based on the plays that they call. That begins this weekend. That's why, again, there's many reasons why I think this is a very important game. That's one of them. And to be honest with you, I was at practice several times. I was there in the spring. I was there in August, and I just thought Max was better. He could scramble enough that the athletic qualifier of Connor was sort of canceled out. It became more who can move the offense around with their arm, who can make the calls at the line of scrimmage. And Connor's extremely smart, but he doesn't have those reps. He has 181 snaps in his career now. Max started at various times in 4 different seasons in the SEC, and he had some very, very good games in the SEC. So that was a no-brainer. It was not surprised at all that Max was a starter. Connor, now that he's the starter, by getting it by default because Max got hurt. So I think it's going to take him a little bit more time to be that voice of a starter. to be that chest pounding guy. That's a figurative thing, not a literal thing. Sam Howell was not a chest pounder, but he was a dog, and everybody knew he was a dog. So Connor's dog, whatever it is going to come out in these few weeks before they go to Duke. And the more he feels like, okay, this is my team, I've got the keys, no one's going to take them from me, the more that dog's going to come out. And when that dog does come out, then we're really going to find out what kind of player he is and how the staff views him. And if he's a high-level guy, this team has a chance to win a ton of games. If he's a so-so guy, they'll still win a decent number of games, but they're going to have to find ways to win outside of just scoring points. They got to be really good defensively, and they got to be mistake-free on special teams.
Yeah, that is something there that, one thing that we've noticed about Connor already, now this is just through really the Charlotte game, because the Minnesota game did not think they had a plan going into that in case something was to happen at all. I know they talked about having two quarterback system potentially, or playing both, not in the system, but
if he was going to play that night without injury, he would have gotten in the game because Max was terrible. Max was terrible, but they ran with Max. They knew that Max was their guy. So I agree with you on that. But when Connor came in, my understanding is it was just get us to the finish line.
Yeah.
They weren't, whatever plan they may have had for him, they threw out the window because the game dictated a change, and just give the ball to Omarion, move the chains a few times, get Noah within kicking range, and we'll get out of here with a W. And that's what happened. So credit him for handling the plan that they gave him.
And not only that, making a great play on that pass to JJ, getting ready to get lit up by a backer and just lofts it right over to him. And JJ's able to pick up 15 some odd yards in that
32.
play and moves 32. I'm sorry. 32, and be able to move the chains to get Noah to where he got. Noah was just spectacular that game. But let's talk about Connor a little bit, because you talked about, Sam Howell being a dog. Everybody knew that. I'm going to assume everybody knew that Drake May was a dog too. Considering how he is, he was probably more of a vocal guy, I would think, for sure, just kind of the way he carries himself and the family that he comes from, of course. Tell me how you think that this team or this offense so far has taken to Connor now being the star guy.
It's funny because Ted Monachino, we talked to him Tuesday, he's an offensive line coach. I'm answering your question, but I'm going D-line first because it's relevant here. He was talking about some of the guys that are now getting it, like a Travis Shaw, like a Javaria Ritzie. And he said, we're no longer painting with numbers. And I thought that was a really interesting thing to say because they're letting them loose. I think the offense is painting with numbers because they're trying to figure out what Connor can and can't do. I believe that whatever they have this week, some things they ran last week, we may not see ever again. They're tossing stuff out as they're wandering through the weeds, and they're bringing stuff in. And the sooner that Connor grabs those keys and said, these are mine, this is my team, and everybody in that room knows it, then I think they have a chance to more quickly become whatever it is they're going to become. And I'm not saying that Connor hasn't fully embraced it. It's just hard. I think his personality is such that he might not be a very demonstrative guy in that room. He's sort of a quiet guy. He's a thoughtful, pensive guy. And nice so guy. The other ones are very much so. The other ones are looking to him for some kind of halo that they can follow. Sam had it in the dog, and there was just such confidence. As confident a dude as I've covered in a long time. Drake had it because he was confident, but he was also a smack talker, a joker, but he knew when to be serious. So you always knew where Drake was. Connor is a little bit more stealth, not as loud, still kind of figuring himself out now. In fact, think about it, guys. He did start the bowl game, but he had 8 months to absorb that. He goes from a start last week to a start this coming week. He hasn't done that since high school, and this is a different animal than high school. So he's still got training wheels on him in many respects. And when those things start to come off, the offense will start to move a little bit more. They're going to be reliant on Omarion, but they're not going to be over-reliant. They need to throw the ball. They have way too many weapons that can catch passes to not take advantage of. So they need to find out how Connor can best take advantage of those weapons. And it's going to be I think the season is more interesting now than if Max were quarterback, simply because of this process. I love the process. Yes. I use the word all the time, and I look at the football season as a book, and each month is a different chapter. And this is a really interesting book right now that we're into, 2 chapters, and we have no clue how this thing's going to finish. And that makes it fun and interesting.
I'm glad you brought up the D line because this is right up my alley. North Carolina has recruited at a high level on the defensive line.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
The coaches on the defensive line have not seemed to be able to unlock
Crack the code.
these players. You even had some players on the defensive line, put out in social media once that coach was no longer with us. Of course, he's gone. But if those players performed while he was coach, maybe he's still coach.
Mm-hmm.
So is Ted Monachino just the combination that unlocked this, that opened the lock, or is it just the players have finally realized, hey, we have to bring our attributes to the table in order to have this defense be what it needs to be?
Fair question, and I'm not there all the time, so I don't fully know the relationship they have with Ted. I think the relationship with Ted is more professional. With Tim Cross, rather, it was more smack talk. I mean, I was around him coaching that group enough at practice that there was a lot of that. I thought he was a good teacher. I thought he was a good personality. The kids loved him. In fact, when everyone was calling for his head after the bowl game in San Diego, they weren't getting rid of him because there would have been a mutiny in that group. There would have been a mutiny, and they didn't want to lose those kids. But the reality was that it was time to make a change there. Now, Ted Monachino can point to 16 years in the NFL that Tim Cross couldn't point to. I mean, I like Tim Cross. He's a really good guy, but he was at the Air Force Academy for a long time, not turning out NFL guys. Monachino was coaching NFL All-Pro dudes. He's been known as a pass rush specialist. He's an amazing communicator in a different way than Tim Cross was. So a lot, and you're also dealing with a year where it was put by Michael Coe, I think it was, where he said it's like a contract year for some of these guys.
Right. Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
This is a contract year for Des Evans. This is a contract year for Jahvaree Ritzie. It's a contract year for Kevin Hester, even for Jacoby Cowan. They have to be dudes if they're going to want to make a penny when they leave North Carolina, make a penny playing football. So there's a lot of incentive for them to buy into Ted Monachino. And I think for them, they're very fortunate that this guy with this much knowledge and this ability to teach and his ability to simplify the message. And that's a very important thing. Simplify the message, get them in position where they can pin the ears back and do what they have to do in combination with Jeff Collins's approach and the way that he communicates and the way that he simplifies. I think it's like the perfect storm for a lot of these guys. I believe the defense is legitimately a lot better. Now, I could be proven wrong in a few weeks, but one of the things that tells me they're a lot better is they are so much cleaner in pre-snap than they've ever been.
Absolutely.
There is
the
only pre-snap issues were the leverage problems and some of the coverage that they had in some of those explosive plays. And they're going to fix that because Marcus Allen's really smart. Caleb Cost just needs to get out there and play. He needs game reps, and that stuff's going to be fixed over time. But they're getting push up front. Des Evans is occupying two blockers every time the ball is snapped. Travis Shaw has been consistently good. He's finally starting to, hey, you know what? I can make money doing this. I got to get my butt in gear now. So there's a really good culture in that room, a much more professional culture than there was before. So I think that's fueling a lot of the talent that these guys have to sort of come out. And I think we'll see more of it. Ritzie is just one example. You're going to see a monster game from Des Evans at some point. You're going to see a monster game.
And honestly, I think it happens in about 48 hours from now. At that, I think at this time, 48 hours from now, we're talking about Des Evans. Like, oh Jesus Christ! I mean,
and I think it would be very healthy for the room if he does.
Yeah,
because we talked to him the other day, and he had no tackles against Minnesota and was great that night.
Yeah,
but
fans will look at the stats and say, "Oh, he's not."
But so do these kids. And I asked him. I said, "Javare's got 5 sacks. How many times has he pointed to thank the passer for that?" And Des said every time.
Yeah.
So,
absolutely.
But he's got to get his too. I think you'll see that.
Okay.
I think you'll see Travis make stops in goal line situations. Kevin Hester, who was really solid as a junior, dropped off last year. it'll take some time before we get a gauge on what kind of player he is this year, but he's another guy along with Josh Harris, who I think has been a really valuable addition. I got to add him in this because he's a father of two. He's married. He's a grown man in that room, and he's a guy that they all like and respect. And he's sort of shown Travis the way. Look, Travis is a kid. When Travis was a kid for a couple of years at Carolina, maturity was certainly an issue. And Josh Harris just reeks of maturity. He's a guy that he's a 28-year-old man in a 23-year-old man's body, essentially, right? And life experience. So Travis can learn from him. He can see how this guy's got a wife and 2 kids and a third one on the way, and he's preparing for football. So if he can do it, Travis, you can do it, and you're 10 times more naturally talented than that dude is. So I think the culture on the defensive line is really, really strong right now, and I don't see any reason why it won't stay that way.
I just got one on Des. Hold on.
Okay.
In that same interview, and nobody like followed up with it, but as soon as Des said it, I was shocked. I was taken aback. He said that he was being the leader and the tone setter of that standard that nobody before him was. Like, I mean, maybe you might recall, but I can't remember how he phrased it, but he said there was.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
He had nobody, like when he was a freshman, the upperclassmen didn't set the example. He had nobody to set the example, and they had nobody to hold the younger players accountable. And I was like, how is that? You were talking about all these programs talk about culture. So did the D-line just not have culture back then? And
remember who the upperclassmen were when he arrived. They were Larry Fedora recruits. They were guys that went through those last 2 years. That 2018 season was a wreck. It started with the Shoegate stuff, and it just continued. And remember at the ACC media days, Larry made those bizarre statements that Bubba asked him to walk it back, and he didn't. He put his foot in his mouth again. Then we go to the first practice. The first practice in college football season is the best day of the year for half the programs in the country because it's the one day they're going to get great coverage. Larry didn't meet with us after the practice. So he missed out on that day because he had already coiled up in a corner. And when a coach does that, it's not going to end well. And he's also not out there with his kids. Larry did a lot of really good things. And I have a drop that we ran Thursday about Larry where I noted that. And I like Larry, but it got out of hand that last year. And it started spiraling out of control late in the 2016 season. So the kids that were the leaders, the oldest guys in the room, when Des showed up, were guys that were somewhat tainted, if you will. Maybe tainted is not the fair word, but they had been jaded a little bit because of what they had been through. And there was a lot of I gotta do what I gotta do for me kind of stuff. And that's not so much their fault. That happens so much in college football and basketball, and even in pro sports. When things start to go awry, they go awry because culture falls apart. So if the culture's there, Larry would have stayed there, and there would have been no need for a change. So it's taken a while to build that culture, and I think that Ted has been huge with this because he's very direct. There's no BS, and it's very direct in a way that kids still have their dignity and they're able to embrace what he says because this guy coached NFL All-Pro dudes, and he told them the same thing. So he could tell like an Elvis Dumerville, someone like that. If he could tell him something this way and tell me it the same way, I got to listen to him. So he's got a lot of credit. He's got a lot of credibility.
Yeah, he does. Yeah. And let me follow up on him on Ted Monachino. That is right before, and I want to get to Jeff Collins because I have like a man crush on that dude. I absolutely love him to death. But with Ted Monachino, you talked about if they would have got rid of Cross after the bowl game, the Holiday Bowl against Oregon, that they would have been a mutiny. Do you think it helped Ted having a year as an analyst with the team to get familiar to keep something like that from happening?
No doubt, because being an analyst is a really good move for a lot of dudes now because they get to reevaluate for themselves. But for him being at this program, he's able to watch. He saw. He was in all the film rooms. He could be in a room with those kids and tell Tim Cross to say something to them. They hear it. So he had hands on, but he also got a chance to see how Mac runs his program. Yeah. And I cannot understate the importance of guys that want to coach with Mac, even though he's 73 and some people say Mac's over the hill, it's time to retire. The way he runs his program, the way that he's able to establish culture and have, I'm going to use the word dignity again, which I usually don't use it very often, but have dignity in the program, but also a means to success. A lot of people want to be around that. And Mac, more now maybe than people realize, allows coaches to coach. Like he's letting Jeff Collins put his DNA all over that defense. And he's letting Ted Monachino put his DNA all over that defensive line room. He did it with Tim Cross, and he gave him a lot of chances, and ultimately it wasn't working up to standard. So the change was made, and Ted saw that talent. I think he saw a talent that should have been coached this way, maybe a tweak here. And usually it's a tweak here or a tweak there, pulling back some stuff, minimizing their thinking out there because they're supposed to react much more than think. So, yeah, I think Ted would have been more likely to take this job the path he did than if he was coaching somewhere else and Mac offered him a job because he wouldn't have known what he was getting into. And that was a big responsibility going into a situation where there's a lot of old guys. The positive with a lot of old guys is they're experienced. The negative is they got a lot of bad habits that need to be broken. So that would turn some dudes off. And Ted embraced it because he knew what they were all about and already had relationships with those guys.
And I think, and this is just personal opinion, I think it's a best case scenario for Ted right now to come in, get with those experienced guys because the young ones coming up, they can see how he operates and kind of get a year up under their belt. And then next year, when you're going to have more younger guys on that D line, a guy like a Tyler Thompson or a Brevon Harvey coming out as well.
Bo Atkinson.
And Bo Atkinson as well. That dude.
Thor, son.
That guy.
Thor.
Yeah, that dude is amazing.
Thor.
And
Bo would start a lot of places right now.
Absolutely, and he is going to be a star for us after.
He's going to play in the NFL one day.
Absolutely.
I just hope
he's going to be amazing.
Him.
Oh, they'll keep him.
Yeah, I don't think Bo's.
He's a big academic guy. They'll keep him. And that's the thing, by the way. Let me. I think we were talking about this before we hit record, but people are highly critical about NIL usage and the kind of guys they brought in because they brought in dudes that weren't very expensive. That was part of the Max Johnson connection. But they had to spend a lot of money to keep guys. And Mac is smart. They're going to put their NIL money to keep guys before they're going to go out and bring guys in because you want to talk about culture? Ask Florida State about culture bringing in a crap load of dudes.
Dude,
they had it last year.
Nobody's talking about that, I don't think. Nobody.
You cannot have a culture. I used to cover Duke as well in basketball, and I covered the whole ACC. And one of the things I marveled about watching the Duke and Carolina programs on a daily basis is how much they mirrored one another. And Coach K used to always talk about the older guys have to teach culture to the younger guys. And in football, if you're losing 25 a year and bringing in 25 a year, how can you do that? Mm-hmm. That's one reason Mac recruits the way he does. He wants guys that are there for other reasons than just football, but they're still coachable and good players. And he wants to keep them in the program. So if enough of them are there and a dude comes in from Southern Cal or a dude comes in from Georgia, they're going to slide into that culture because it's already in place. And if they want to play and if they want to be a part of things, they have to assimilate. The culture just doesn't have a bunch of wild parts all over the place and see how they play out once the game starts. So I like that approach. I think it's a good approach for a program like North Carolina because if you try to go the Florida State way and you lose a bunch of guys and bring in too many guys in 1 year, you could find yourself at the bottom of the ACC real fast if it doesn't work out. So there's a sustainability with the way he's doing things. And I do think as they get more money in the NIL collective that they will go out and spend more in the offseason this year than they did last year because they're going to have more money.
Yeah.
And they don't have to pay Omarion to keep him. They won't have to pay Omarion to keep him.
No joke. And honestly, I think that does nothing but help North Carolina having a story like an Omarion Hampton or a Drake May or Cedric Gray, guys that had plenty of chances to go leave Carolina and decided to stay because this is a place, it's a culture place, and people love being here. But, I want to kick it over to Jeff Collins because Jeff Collins has come in and, to me, completely facelift this defense. Now, we still have a lot to see. I know we're 2 games in, but Minnesota, that performance, especially in the third quarter, keeping Minnesota from doing anything. And Max Brosmer's looking like a Heisman candidate right now over there. I don't know if you saw anything from him since. Dude's going nuts right now. In that last game, I think he threw for like 400 yards in the last game. It was completely ridiculous. But what? Yeah, potentially. What in the world? Tell me the difference. Is it simply just kind of taking the shackles off and saying, go play your position, go play football, and don't think about everything you're doing? Was it simply that? I mean, what are we not seeing about Jeff that has helped him flip this team?
Well, the first thing is, I'm going to go back to another Ted Monachino quote because there were so many great ones the other day. They've taken the rocks out of everybody's pocket.
Yes, I love that. Yes.
Yeah.
So by doing that, they've sort of minimized assignments by giving you more responsibility. Yeah. When you're blitzing more, when you're the guy blitzing, man, it is on you. You've got to at least force them to pick you up so other guys can do their job. You're also having corners have to play man coverage more. They got to do their job. So there's a lot more responsibility, but the job descriptions have been narrowed. And because they're narrowed and there's a lot more aggressiveness in nature with what they want to do, the kids have all said that they're playing with more freedom. It's interesting. They have more responsibility, but they're playing with more freedom. And that's the perfect marriage. When you get them to believe they're playing with more freedom, because they are, but they have more responsibility and they are to rely on their natural skills to make plays more, that's an unbelievable thing. And that's something that this defense has not had since the Butch Davis days. It has not had it at all. It has not had that kind of belief and that kind of looseness to it and they've got a lot of athletes over there, man. There's a lot of dudes on that side of the ball that can earn money at the next level. This program has 6 rookies in the NFL right now, not counting Storm Duck. So there's dudes there. So let the dudes don't be surprised the guy makes an NFL roster once they get up there. See it now. And I think that Jeff Collins' approach allows those skills and attributes to come out. And when the rocks are out of the pocket and the mind is clear, you're not second guessing. Because I had a coach tell me one time, a long time ago, if you get a 4-star linebacker, a high 4-star and a low 3-star, and if the 4-star linebacker breaks the wrong way at snap, and the low 3-star guy breaks the right way, the 3-star guy is more athletic. He's better because he's not making up lost ground like the 4-star is. He's going to get to the ball quicker than the 4-star guy every time. So they're clear-minded in pre-snap, which is why they're not making mistakes in pre-snap, and that's going to make them better.
I even want like the Jeff Collins look, man, with like the little zip of the quarter zip with like the hoodie that's rolled up and zipped at the collar. I want the whole thing, man.
He wants like the sleeveless with the sleeve underneath.
I'll tell you what, he is very, very honest in answering questions about his guys. Now, he's very positive about them. He doesn't go so much with the negative things. He does the negative stuff in a very uplifting kind of way. And one of the things that I warned a lot of Carolina fans when he was hired was like, you guys are overreacting because you're judging him by what he did at Georgia Tech.
Yeah.
Head coach and coordinator is no connection. Every head coach was once a damn good coordinator. They wouldn't have become a head coach. But very few head coaches are really good head coaches. Most of them get fired. So if you're an average head coach or even a bad head coach, but you're a great coordinator, what job would you rather hire that guy for? Not head coach. You want to be a coordinator because that's where this guy has excelled in the past, and I think that's where he's happiest. And I would imagine he's going to be at Carolina for a while because Carolina checks all the boxes for him. I think that Mac's belief in him when he was sort of kind of getting laughed at around college football circles because of what happened at Georgia Tech when he was head coach there, Mac's given him a lifeline, and he's taking advantage of it. Now, we don't know if this defense is going to be great. I think it will be good. I think it'll be a lot better than it's been. Of course, they've got 10 more games to play, so we'll talk about this in 3 months. But the foundation is there more now than it's been. And I think it's pretty cool to watch because I think he's having a lot of fun. I think he's having so much more fun than he ever did as head coach.
Yeah, and he's really seemed to bring the physicality. But it's noticeable on both sides of the ball. It just seems like, especially because we all know football is generally won at the line of scrimmage. And it just Aiden Banfield, a 3-star freshman starting at guard. But he just obliterates everybody. I can't like just focus in like media people and just like watch one person just to see what they're doing or watch like a set of people. Like once, like I'm following the ball. Like, oh, where they're going? Where's it going? Where's it going? I'm watching the game like as a fan. Yeah. But every once in a while, I can just focus on certain players. Like, oh, I wonder what he's doing, and not watch the play. And I haven't seen him get beat. And it just seems like he's out muscling and just out physicaling, even though that's not a word, everybody. And it's really impressive. But because there's offensive linemen that are highly rated, that are on this team, that don't play, and haven't seen the field, haven't sniffed the field. I did see those players on a field goal attempt or an extra point attempt, but this dude walked off a high school football field onto North Carolina's football field and is running roughshod over whoever is put in front of him. And maybe it's just the mentality of the coaches and just, like you said, unlocking these players and letting them play how they want to play and doing their job and nobody else's job, doing their 111. But the physicality of this year's team is much more impressive. And I told him earlier in one of our earlier podcasts, if Drake May was on this team, I think they'd be undefeated. I would not be surprised if the stars aligned, everybody was healthy, nobody got hurt. The way Drake May could command this offense with the way Jeff Collins has gotten this defense to play in the first two games that we've seen so far, and you only expect them to get better if Drake May was on this team. And there's no shot at Connor. It's no shot at Max. But this team would be unbelievable.
I think you're right. I think this team would be a playoff team. And actually, I want to piggyback off what he's saying real quick, and then AJ, turn it over to you because he's talking about the physicality. Let me add on to that. Do you think that's because of the coaching staff that Mac has assembled? Randy Clements, we all know he's a super physical guy and has done a great job in places that he's been. Ted Monachie on the other side of the line of scrimmage. Jeff Collins running the defense. Is there something to that in this coaching staff?
Yeah, Lonnie Galloway is one of the best wide receiver coaches at teaching guys how to block. That's why Christian Hamilton's on the field. They're very good blockers out on the edge. You've got a former NFL head coach as your tight end coach. He's a great guy. If you talk to Freddie, man, you just think of, man, this guy will break a ball over his head and not even feel it. You get that kind of feel from him. And you want coaches like that. You know, I call them glass chewers. You want glass chewers in your program. I think that's been missing. When Mac continued to say this offensive line is going to be better, I was highly skeptical because you look at the reps. You look at where guys came from, but they kept saying they're more physical. They're more physical. So if you can establish the run, it's going to be easier to pass block because you know that you can always go to that. You can come out and pass well, but if you can't go to the run, that means you can only pass. But if you can run well, you can still intertwine the pass in with that. It's the way the game, you said, it's in the trenches. It's the way the game has to be played. The best teams can do that. So they have made a point of emphasis about physicality on both sides. They hit more this fall in fall camp they had previously. And I think there's a hunger. You look at that offensive line. Got Howard Sampson from North Texas, played 83 snaps in North Texas. The guy's hungry. In fact, he told me back in January that he was a project. He shows up spring practice, they start hitting, and they're like, he's not a project. They just didn't use him properly. You've got Aiden Banfield, true freshman. He's a mauler. He's a road grader. Austin Blasky, guy won 2 national championships. I don't blame a guy for not getting on the field that much at Georgia. It's Georgia.
Yeah.
Willie Lampkin, another road grader. He was Sun Belt offensive lineman of the year. His last year at Coastal was a center. He's an NFL prospect at 5'11". Trevion Green, 450 pounds when Carolina offered him. Max said it's a committable offer if you lose 100 pounds. He loses 100 pounds. These guys have a different edge. They're not ballyhooed. They have a chip on their shoulder. So you have guys like that are getting on the field as opposed to some guys that are higher rated that aren't getting on the field because of that chip that they have. And then you look at the fact that they're blocking for a guy like Omarion, who's going to break tackles and drag people with him. I think there's a mentality there. It's a culture there of physicality, just like there is we were talking about on defense up front.
And 100 pounds, that's just ridiculously amazing. I need to talk to that guy. I mean, for real. But
Travis Shaw, by the way, was at 370 in late February, early March. He weighed 329 on Sunday.
Yeah, dude,
that's crazy.
That is awesome, man. I need to talk to that nutrition staff up there, man. Maybe they can.
He looks small standing next to Josh Harris.
Yeah, Josh Harris is a big boy. I saw him in
Big boy.
person the other day, and I was sitting I was at the 50-yard line on North Carolina side, like relatively close. I'm like,
Yeah.
man, that's a big flipping dude. But
Yeah.
you're pointing in the direction I was wanting you to go, because I want to talk to you now about the recruiting side of this, because all of it. I mean, Aiden Banfield's freshman. He's coming in here playing. People expect guys like Jordan Shipp and Alex Taylor to see the field, Chris Culliver as well, younger guys coming in that are making names for themselves. Zion Ferguson, Malcolm Ziegler, guys that you hope to see, maybe some point in time during this year as they rotate people out, maybe next year. Who
Ashton
knows?
Woods when he gets healthy.
Ashton
when he
Woods,
gets
thank you.
healthy.
I love Ashton Woods. Seeing the little bit I've
He's
gotten
a
to
little
see of him,
banged
I
up
think
right now, but I think that if he gets back soon, you could see him on the field a little bit in November.
I honestly said that he was going to be my third linebacker, and I'm not even privy to like the stuff every day that you guys are. But I want to hit recruiting now for a second. Okay, recruiting. Do you think with correct me if I'm wrong here. It seemed like, and this may be a part of the Dre Black connection, but it seems like a couple of seasons ago we were hitting more people towards, North Carolina, but also like Virginia, things of that nature. Over the last last year or so, 2 years, you saw that recruiting kind of switch more down south to Florida, Georgia, Davion Goss coming out, things of that nature, and getting in some guys out of there. Do you think that with Mac Brown's obviously changing of the coaching staff, trying to be more physical and be glass chewers, if you will, do you think the recruiting geographically has changed to kind of find guys that are in tougher places that play even tougher?
I think part of it is where coaches have history. So if a coach can walk, if Charlton Warren can go into Atlanta and walk into any high school and they all know who he is, that helps. Mm-hmm. As opposed to him going into high schools in Baltimore, greater Baltimore, and he might not know anybody, as an example. I think that's part of it. I really think that I could tell you, I believe this program has identified greater Atlanta. It's probably the best area for high school football players in the country. But the thing that I found out with Atlanta area kids, and there's so many examples of it, and I'm going to use Cayman Rutgers Exhibit A. There are so many really good 3-star kids that are only 3-star kids because they're playing against 4 and 5s. So that maybe they don't show as much, or they're just overlooked a little bit because everyone wants to watch the eye candy. Everybody knows that guy's a 4-star. We'll watch him. So they all have chips. The 3-star kids from the Atlanta area all play with chips. So if you get a dude that's really good, he's 4th team All-State in Georgia, and he's all conference or whatever, but he's like a 5.6 or a 5.7, and he comes to North Carolina. He's got an edge, and he's already played the most competitive high school football you can play. A lot of those guys are in programs that have some college sent to them, like down in Florida, Davion Goss. He stepped right in. He's like, yeah, I've kind of been in college already at Chaminade Madonna down in Florida. A lot of the Georgia kids are like that. So I think that's part of it. Kids with a chip on their shoulder are tougher. There are also a lot of good academic kids. They are finding that the kids that are committed to the academics and committed to the extracurricular activities, A, they're more coachable, B, they learn the playbook quickly, and C, they just have an edge because there's a discipline to them. There's a pride factor to them. And they tend to play. They tend to come closer to meeting what their potential is. A lot of the kids they brought in from some of the other areas didn't. They thought maybe they were better than they were. I think sometimes kids that's a 4 or 5-star might choose in North Carolina thinking, I'm going to get on the field right away. I don't need to have competition. That's why they don't go to Alabama. Think about basketball. A kid from North Carolina chooses, let's say, Alabama. People are like, why would he go there when he can go to North Carolina? Well, he thinks he could play more than Alabama, doesn't want to deal with the competition in North Carolina. That's a narrative I've heard for years. So in football, a kid goes to North Carolina instead of maybe going to Clemson or Ohio State or whatever. Some people think that that's sort of in their mindset as well. They don't have to work as hard to get on the field. I'm not saying that's true. I'm just throwing you whether there's a narrative out there about that. Right. I know that this staff loves the guys with an edge. They love the guys that are disciplined. They love the yes, sir, no, sir, yes, ma'am, no, ma'am guys. They love the dudes that will hold open a door for a lady at the supermarket. They want those T's crossed and those I's dotted, because it makes their job when you bring them into the football center easier, because they're not going to have to overteach and overcoach and go back over stuff. And then with NIL being what it is now and the transfer portal, you can bring in what you need on occasion, and you could fill holes that way. But you've got a foundation of dudes that give the culture that we were talking about before, and ones that know that, like a Kamen Rucker, someone could have come after him. I'm sure schools came after him, but hey, man, these guys made me into what I was. I'm not going somewhere else, because you could be Diego Pounds and on second team right now at Ole Miss, like he is. He would be starting at North Carolina. He's second team at Ole Miss right now. Yeah. Jeez. So, yeah. So you get those guys, they're going to stick around. They become more entrenched in the culture of the university, with everything about who they are becomes more identified with the school. I think that's what they're doing. And I can tell you that I pretty much know that's what they're doing. And it's how they want to build this program. They're going to go after 4s and 5s. But the 4s and 5s that meet that criteria as well, for the most part, those are the ones they're going to bring in. They're not just going to go after any 4 or 5. They don't look at stars. They look at other stuff. Michael Merdinger, for example, the true freshman quarterback, he's the third teamer now. He didn't even start his junior year in high school at Cardinal Gibbons down in Fort Lauderdale. Now, he started at a previous school, but he went there because it was a better program, and he knew that he had a better chance of getting a better scholarship offer playing there. So he sat behind a guy that's now a sophomore, second year at Central Florida, and he started last year. Carolina offered and accepted his commitment before he ever started a game at Cardinal Gibbons, because Chip Lindsey went and saw him at Elite 11 camp. He went and saw him throw separately. It's like, we want this guy. He was born in Israel. He's a great student. He's the kid that will help someone out help her with her groceries or whatever. He's got all those boxes he's checked, and he's in the program now. And by the way, he had a hell of a year last year when he did have the keys to the job at Cardinal Gibbons. So that's what they're kind of going after. They're kind of wading through the weeds a little bit to find some diamonds in the rough, if you will. But look at every NFL roster. There are diamonds in the rough everywhere in this sport.
Yeah.
There are guys from small schools all over the league. Amari Gaynor didn't start last year. He's on an NFL roster. Brutus Brooks didn't start last year. He's on an NFL roster. NFL teams don't give a crap what star ratings were. They don't give a crap what college you played at. Can you play and help them? That's what they want. I think they're approaching things that way with this program.
I think you look at Elijah Huzzy perfectly. East Tennessee State, all of a sudden over here, lockdown corner, nobody's throwing at him. Alan, you go ahead.
Yeah, they're picking on Marcus. They're picking on Marcus Allen.
Yeah, they are.
A guy who NFL scouts came to practice to watch him back in August, because the NFL loves him because he's got the specs. And people are picking on him because Elijah Huzzy's so good.
Yeah, I'd read last year, I believe, I'd read a stat somewhere at the top, and this is just speaking on the depth of high school talent in just Georgia alone. The top-rated UNC, the top-rated North Carolina high school football player would have been the 50th ranked player in Georgia.
I don't know if that's true, because North Carolina is about 8th or 9th in turning out prospects. There's a lot of good football players that come out of this state, and there's always 5-star kids here. There's not 55 stars in Georgia. But to your point, when a kid commits, we do our little report, we'll say, hey, he's the number 17 weak side defensive end in the country, and he's the number 57 prospect in Georgia. And people are like, 57th? Yeah, that means he's a stud, because there's so many damn good players there. 57 in Georgia might translate to 20th or 15th in North Carolina. I get what you're saying, but North Carolina always had, like, look at David Sanders. David Sanders wouldn't be 50th in Georgia. He'd be in the top 5 in Georgia.
Yeah.
So guys like that, North Carolina has. But I agree, once you get past 12 or 15, there's much more of a drop off in this state. Georgia just keeps going. There's just so many dudes.
All right. Well, I got one more, and then this has been a blast. I'm always the fun question guy. So, what is the best thing about your job pregame? Like what the thing you look forward to the most pregame at a football game?
I love walking up to the stadium, because I have not tailgated. I have not tailgated since the 90s. So my tailgate is watching people enjoy what they're doing. They're not connected with the tough parts of life, the stressful parts of life. They're there to watch a game. I love college football. I love college basketball. I love walking up and just getting a feel for it. And then next, it's once I get into the press box, I get there about 2 hours before kickoff. I go through my routine and the things I do. There's a little social aspect of it that I kind of like. But then when the players come out, got the binoculars out. We're looking to see who's in street clothes. We're looking to see rotations in certain position drills. And then I like when the band comes out on the field and that 20 minutes or so build up to kickoff and the team comes out of the huddle. No matter where I go, I absolutely love that. And when I go to a place like Minnesota that I'd never been, I can't wait for it. I was in the press box 3.5 hours before kickoff because of the time change, the kick change. Right. And it's like I couldn't wait for Minnesota's band to get on the field just to look at what their traditions are like. So I love that. Everything else is great. I love it. It's a blessing to do what I do. But those are the things where it's like the calm before the storm, and then it starts to heat up a little bit. I love that. In basketball, it's like when after the introductions, the players go out in the court, whether it's home or away, and they're shaking hands and they're dapping and all that kind of stuff, and the place is starting to build up before the tip. I absolutely love that moment. And I always take that moment to give thanks for the blessing that I have to do this for a living instead of something that I would hate doing, like too many people unfortunately have to do.
Dude,
well,
that's awesome. That's just awesome, bro.
If you're in the press box 2 hours before the game, then I don't reckon we'll cross paths Saturday. But on the off chance that we do, the first Coca-Cola
come over to the media elevator.
Will be on.
Come over to the media elevator. Send me a text. I'll come down and talk to you guys. I'll do that all the time. I have people all the time will text me and say, hey, I want to chat. Just say, hey, that kind of thing. And I go down to the media elevator, which is on the hospital side of the stadium, right underneath the press box. I have no problem with that at all. You send me a text. I'll give you guys my number. Send me a text. I'll come down and say, hey.
I got great.
Got no problem.
I got an extra ticket, Nathan.
Hey, I'm there. I'm there next week for JMU. I am there for next week. By the way,
come
AJ,
see me then.
You mind doing me a favor, real quick? Quick. Would you mind? This is for the fan base.
AJ, please don't do it.
I really appreciate it.
I'm not singing and I'm not dancing.
No. I won't make you sing. I just need you to just to look at the camera. Tell Mr.
Don't do it,
Allen
AJ.
here. Hey, man.
AJ, please
just don't. For the people, make us an NC Central vlog, a game day vlog. Would you mind doing that for me?
A game day vlog for NC Central?
Yeah.
What do you want?
Yeah.
I'm going to the game, and he wants me to make a vlog of my attendance at the game.
That's typically what we do when we go to games, you know.
Okay.
Me and him, when he does it or we both do it together, I just typically don't do that kind of thing when it's just me and my wife and the kids.
Okay. So what do you want me to do?
Would you mind just telling Alan, hey, just help for the people, for the fans.
So be more specific. What you need me to do?
No.
Because he's not biting. He's not biting, and you are. So I'm.
Yeah.
No, don't do it.
So we have a challenge right now. We have a little bit of a challenge right now with the viewers. We're trying to get 10 total viewers to just put in the comments, Alan, make us an NC Central vlog. And if you would just mind repeating that statement for me. Just would you mind?
Okay.
You don't have to.
Alan, make us an NC Central vlog.
Yes.
Damn it.
I love it. All right, we're gonna count that. I wanted that in the record books. That way, when I show him the 10 people, he could see it verbatim what's happening here.
I can do a Dina King accent and represent her, and I could do one for Jacob. I'll give you 3 right there.
Oh, Jesus.
Alan, make us a North Carolina Central vlog. That's my Dina King right there.
Oh my gosh, yes, it is. She is, dude. When she
love
talks,
her to death. Love her to death.
She's amazing.
That and the Hispanic guy that I heard. I don't think I've heard him this year, but
because we haven't done Zoom. He does Zoom stuff.
Yeah. His accent.
He's a really nice guy. He's a football fanatic, man. He does good stuff. Actually, he does good stuff.
So where is the media elevator?
The media
is
elevator.
It on the home side?
Do you know the entrance over by the hospital? I think it's 6. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
You know where the press box is, right?
Yeah.
The press box is not on the Pope side. The press box is on the home side.
Right.
So
Homestand.
you go up
That's where
from the
my
home
tickets were.
stands above there. There's a media elevator just on the ground right behind that. It's right there, right near the entrance by the hospital.
Okay.
Just send me a text. I'll give you guys my number. Send me a text.
I'll come see you.
That sounds
And you
good,
can
dude.
be part of the
Man,
vlog. You
yeah,
asked for
there
it.
you go, dude. You have been outstanding tonight,
Well, I appreciate
man.
it.
I know the fan base is going to absolutely love this. It's been a blast. We're kind of just scratching the surface with everything going on here. A lot to talk about, and I think it's good for the people to kind of know, maybe have the questions that people are wanting to ask, be answered by someone that sees this stuff every single day, because we're not privy to that type of info all the time. So it's good to have insiders be open to a forum like this, to come out here and just hang out with a couple of dudes who just love North Carolina and just want to talk some football, man. So we absolutely appreciate you so much for coming out here. Again, if you're not subscribed to Tar Heel Illustrated, be sure head over there and subscribe to them. Also, go check out their content. $8.33 a month gets you all the insider content
beer at Keenan.
yeah, no joke.
Just do it.
I couldn't even get barbecue nachos for that when I was there Saturday. Just saying.
Is this stuff expensive now? It's like super expensive.
It's getting it's getting up there. I'm not gonna lie.
I know that they had some new choices and stuff, so I don't know. I like to try to walk the concourse once a year just to get a feel for it. I've never really looked at the prices. I'm just not wired that way. I know when I go to an Orioles game every year, they seem to raise the price. It's like $15 a beer or something now. It's ridiculous.
Yeah. Did you see where Carolina announced that they're doing a Lululemon collab that they're putting in the superstore?
Yeah, I heard about that. I don't know a whole lot about it right now, but I heard about that. And is that a good thing? Do you guys know much about it?
Lululemon, from what I have found out, is an extremely expensive, basically woman brand. From what I can tell, Alan caught a cramp in the middle of it because we started talking about prices. We started season up,
and
you need to drink some Gatorade Zero, man, or pickle juice.
Dude, yeah.
There you go.
Propel, that'll work.
I have a Charlie horse in both of my legs. This is fantastic.
He started talking about prices, man. He started season up, dude.
I hear you.
It's so bad.
Well, guys, I really appreciate you having me on. I really enjoyed it. I've been looking forward to this. You guys serve a wonderful purpose. Carolina fans that care passionately should hang out with you guys. Go to the people who cover this stuff, and also go to you guys, because you can share perspectives that sometimes we don't have. And you can also deal with the emotion, which I think is a really, really important part of it. And that's the one thing we don't do. That's the one thing I kind of wish we could sometimes, but I don't want to blur that line of media integrity. So that's why shows like yours are so wonderful for the fans.
Well, thank you so much, man. Thank you. Thank you to all of you that listened. Be sure to comment down below. And like, comment, subscribe if you're brand new to the channel. Hang out with us. We got a long way to go. We're just 2 games into this football season. We got a long way to get down. So thank you all for watching. Thank you all for being here. And as always, go Heels.
You don't want none.